Can I be Lord of the Holdfast?
You will marry a high lord and rule this castle. And your sons shall be knights and princes and lords.
No. That's not me.
Arya Stark is one of the most compelling characters in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, and she's easily one of my personal favorites. Her story is so much more captivating in the books because her arc deals with some of the story's most important themes: identity, justice, revenge, and of course,
Death.
what makes her story so powerful is not just the fact that Arya survives brutal experiences throughout the narrative. It's also how she makes sense of these complex ideas, especially since she's dealing with them through the eyes of a child. On the show, Game of Thrones, Arya is 13 when she begins her journey, but in the books, she's only 9. That small difference changes everything because with each brutal event that she endures, her story feels a lot heavier and more tragic when you remember that she's just a little girl, forced to navigate her own way through the horrors of war. The death of her father, the brutal betrayal of her brother and mother, and all the other deaths that she encounters along the way. All of these moments are more tragic once you remember that we are reading them through the perspective of a young girl, barely out the age of preschool. Thus, Arya's story is not just a story of survival and endurance, it's also the story of a child losing their innocence, a childhood that's being stripped away piece by piece, as she's forced to confront the brutal realities of the world that she lives in.
Is that the first man you've killed?
The first man.
Arya's brutal reality is also what leads to her struggling so much with her identity, as she often has to adopt different aliases and disguises in order to survive. Throughout the novels, she becomes Ari, Weasel, Nan, Salty, Cat of the Canals, the Blind Girl, and many more. But she never, ever forgets who she truly is. In A Feast for Crows, while she is training in the House of Black and White, she comes to a realization. "Who are you?" he would ask her every day. "No one," she would answer. She who had been Arya of House Stark, Arya Underfoot, Arya Horseface. She who had been Ari and Weasel too, and Squab and Salty, Nan the Cupbearer, a grey mouse, a sheep, the ghost of Harrenhal, but not for true, not in her heart of hearts. In there, she was Arya of Winterfell. No matter what face she wears, Arya's true identity as a Stark remains alive inside her, but it's still an inner conflict which she struggles with throughout the novels. On the show, her struggle with her identity was simplified because they made Jack and Hagar force her to surrender her name. Arya doesn't seem to make the choice willingly to become a faceless assassin. Rather, Jack and Hagar and the Waif have to constantly force her to change. However, in the books, this is done differently because Arya wants to become no one. She wants to become a faceless assassin to survive and gain the skills that she will need to eventually get rid of the names on her list. This journey is not forced on her. Arya does it voluntarily, slipping in and out of identities as if they were a pair of sandals. But she can never truly forget her true identity. She can never truly erase who she is. And that is why she cannot get rid of Needle, a symbol of her true self and her family. Rather than to get rid of the sword during a faceless men training, she instead decides to hide her, safeguarding a piece of her soul for the day that she can reclaim her name. Even the kindly man recognizes her reluctance to let go of her former self. In the books, the kindly man can see through her facade, and he once tells her that you are still Arya of House Stark, who bites her lip and cannot tell a lie. Arya cannot let go of who she truly is, but I think that that's why book fans love her character so much, because she rebels against losing her identity. Even though she takes on many names throughout the story, she can never quite manage to bury Arya Stark for good. If anything, the names represent different stages of her character growth and the survival tactics that she must adopt. But at the end of the day, she is Arya of House Stark and Winterfell. And that's what book fans love the most about her. They also love her strong, sometimes severe sense of justice, which makes sense since her father was such a just man. Even though Arya herself is such a young girl, she often takes matters into her own hands during her journey, dispensing justice to those that she believes are deserving of punishment for their wrongdoings. A good example of this is when she encounters Darian in Bravos, who is a singer from the Night's Watch who decided to desert. When Arya learns that Darian abandoned his sworn brothers and is now bragging in Bravosi taverns, she considers him an oathbreaker and a murderer by neglect, and she ultimately decides to kill him. Afterwards, she reflects on how he had deserved to die. It's a bit disturbing to remember that this is a child who thinks like this, but it reminds us of how Arya understands the concept of justice. To her, Darian's desertion and his betrayal of his vows justifies her actions, no matter how extreme. She will kill anyone as long as she believes that she is punishing someone who's guilty. She hates cruelty and cannot stand to see the innocent suffer. That is why she stands up for Micah when Joffrey is bullying him. In A Clash of Kings, while she's a prisoner at Harrenhal, Arya whispers the names of those who brutalized others, condemning them to death for their torturing of the smallfolk. This is why she ultimately decides to whisper Chiswick's name to Jaqen H'ghar, because he was one of the men who raped a young girl of 14 in front of her father. Arya feels a strong hatred and anger for perpetrators of such atrocities. When she gets the opportunity to act against them, she usually takes that opportunity, like she did during the chaos of Harrenhal, when she personally kills a guard who was cruel to the prisoners. These acts are not portrayed as mindless violence. Rather, they are Arya's way of righting wrongs in a world where there seems to be no justice at all, especially for the small folk. And book fans love her for it. Readers can appreciate that despite everything that Arya endures, she still has a conscience enough to save the innocents, like she does with the prisoners in Harrenhal, and also punish those that she deems to be guilty, which are usually people that are guilty. This is actually why she is so resistant to the philosophy of the faceless men in the books, because they kill indiscriminately, without regard to personal agendas, whereas Arya specifically wants to target people that she believes to be evil.
Does death only come for the wicked and leave the decent behind?
No.
Arya struggles with the neutrality of the faceless men. She cannot help but judge, because she needs a reason to kill. That's why in the books, the kindly man eventually tells Arya the hard truth. Ask, and it can be restored to you. Your heart is too soft to be one of us. In reality, the kindly man is saying something that we, the readers, have known all along. Arya is not a cold-blooded killer. She is a girl who kills from a place of pain and perceived justice. That's what makes her strangely endearing to the readers, even though she's losing her innocence in the process. It's also a blurry line between Arya's sense of justice and her just wanting revenge. That's why the theme of revenge is so pertinent in her story. The books poignantly depict Arya as a child processing trauma through her desire for revenge, so much so that it can often blur the line between revenge and justice. It's not a coincidence that Chiswick was one of the men that she killed who were also on her list. The same could go for men like Polliver and the Tickler. All of these men were once part of Arya's infamous kill list, the names of people she recites every night to remind herself of the people she wants dead.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister, the Red Woman, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Ilyn Payne, the Mountain.
In the books, the origins of this list are completely self-driven. After witnessing the brutal execution of her father and enduring the cruelty of the Lannister men during the War of the Five Kings, Arya begins to whisper these names as a way to focus her grief and rage. It's actually quite a haunting coping mechanism for a young girl such as herself. Each name is a person who hurt her family or an innocent person, and reciting them gives Arya a sense of purpose. On the show, I hated that the idea for the list was inspired by Yoren, a Night's Watch recruiter who saves her and then tells her about a story of how he used to whisper a killer's name every night to cope with his anger.
I must have been a couple of years older than you. I saw my brother stabbed through the heart right on our doorstep. You want much of a villain what skewered him? Willem, the lad's name was. I would think about him when I was working, when I was drinking, when I was having a shit. It got to the point where I would say his name every night before I went to bed. Willem, Willem, Willem.
Even though I think that this is a beautiful scene, it does take away Arya's agency and what this list means to her from the novels. In the books, no one gives Arya this idea. It comes to her organically from her own suffering. It's a small change, but a significant one, which shows us how deeply the horrors of what she's witnessed have scarred her. As time goes on, this list evolves with Arya. Some names are removed while others are added. Even as she trains in Bravos, the list lingers on her mind. Sir Gregor, she thought. Dunsen, Raff the Sweetling, Sir Ilyn, Sir Meryn, Queen Cersei, her morning prayer. Or was it? No, she thought, not mine. I am no one. That is the Nightwolf's prayer. Someday she will find them. Someday. This quote shows us that even when Arya tries to distance herself from the prayer, her desire for vengeance is just too strong. It lives on inside her subconsciously. I actually think that the show resolved this theme too quickly, with Arya killing a few key targets and even projecting her vengeance outwards towards a more supernatural threat. The show also framed Arya's quest for revenge in a heroic light, but I think that this was a bad decision for the showrunners to make. In the book, Arya's revenge is not portrayed as something heroic or even purely good. It's depicted as a dark path for her to take, slowly eating away at Arya's innocence. As readers, we feel both satisfaction and sorrow when we read about her reciting the list. Satisfaction because we see a Stark that refuses to forget the wrongs that were done to her family, but also sorrow because she's just a little girl whose prayers are about all the people she wants to kill. George takes a more nuanced approach to the concept of revenge. Sometimes it's Arya's solace, and sometimes it's her curse. But I think that it's far better portrayed in the books than it is on the show, and I believe that it's one of the reasons why book fans love her character more in the novels.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
Arya's story is also inextricably linked with the theme of death. From the beginning, it's the one theme that is acquainted with her story. From the first book when she loses her friend Micah to the Hound's brutality, to witnessing her father's execution at the hand of Sir Ilyn. As the story goes on, death follows her everywhere. She survives atrocities in the war-torn Riverlands, she learns how to kill, and then she ultimately goes to the House of Black and White, where death is literally worshipped. And that is where her story sits, with her learning how to master death and even harness it, being taught the art of assassination through being of service to death. Vala Dohairis. In the books, Arya also learns to serve death through her magical abilities as a warg. Just like Bran, she can slip into the skin of animals in the novels, and she certainly deals death in the Riverlands while warging into Nymeria. Through her, Arya wreaks bloody vengeance on the Lannisters and the Freys, and she even pulls her mother's corpse from the river, leading to her becoming Lady Stoneheart. This magical element shows that Arya's connection to death is almost supernatural in the books, and that can tie into the decision to have her be the one to kill the Night King in Game of Thrones. I don't actually think that Arya will be the one to do this in the books, but I do believe that she will have a significant role to play in their demise. Arya is never framed as a mystical savior in the story, but since the others are the ultimate symbol of death, there's no doubt that she will confront them and play an important role in stopping them. I think that it's the ultimate conclusion of a character arc. Arya Stark is actually one of my favorite characters in the story. Through her, George R. Martin does an interesting job of exploring complex themes like identity, revenge, justice, and death, but through the eyes of a child who struggles to grapple with those concepts. In the books, we explore Arya's struggle with these concepts in a way that the show could only superficially depict. This is what makes Arya such a complex character, because she's deadly, but she's also sympathetic. She's not a simplistic heroine. She is a broken child who uses many names to survive, a victim who becomes an avenger, and a killer who has not lost her capacity for love or mercy. It's this complexity that makes her such a compelling figure, such a beloved character by book fans, and what makes her so much better in the books overall. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think that Arya is a better character in the books than on the show? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more videos in the future. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one. Peace.